Once upon a time, there was a boy named Chima who lived in a village with his parents, Mr. and Mrs. Okafor. The villagers held the Okafor family in high regards and looked up to them. They were well off and always willing to lend helping hand to those in need. Whenever someone faced a problem, whether it was needing advice or financial assistance, they would turn to the Okafors. Chima was the youngest of 7 siblings. He was a bright and caring boy who always heeded his parents' advice and attended church with them every Sunday. As Chima began his secondary school journey, his parents were becoming older. They had been strict with his elder brothers and sisters, but with Chima, they had taken a more relaxed approach. Because all their children had successfully grown into admirable adults, the community praised the Okafor family and their wonderful upbringing. Chima had a childhood friend named Obinna. They attended church together, walked to school together, and were always seen side by side. Everyone in the village knew they were best friends. Both Chima and Obinna were bright students and performed well in their studies. Now they were in their second to last year of secondary school. In their class, there were some boys who didn't take their studies seriously and were often up to mischief. The teachers were frustrated with their behavior and were tired of constantly reminding them to act appropriately. One day, when Obinna didn't come to school, Chima felt a deep sense of loneliness without his friend by his side. After school, as Chima walked home alone, he was approached by Okoro, one of the mischievous boys. Okoro was charismatic and always managed to pull attention towards himself. He invited Chima to join him and his friends at the busy corner shop, where they often gather to play games and share stories. Chima hesitated, knowing that his parents would not approve of him hanging out with that group. But Okoro's charm and the thrill of trying something new were hard for Chima to resist. So he decided to go to the corner shop just this once. When they arrived, Chima found the boys sitting with girls from their school. He was invited to sit next to a girl named Chineye. In that moment, Chima felt a sense of freedom and excitement that he had never experienced before. He knew he had to be cautious not to let his parents discover what he was doing, but for now, he embraced the fun. As days passed, Chima began to spend more time with this new group of friends, learning things that were against the teaching of his parents. At first, he felt guilty about it, but he convinced himself that he could quit whenever he wanted. He believed his parents trusted him and that he wouldn't truly stray from the right path. However, he slowly became more immersed in the new lifestyle. Teachers at school began to notice the change in Chima. He started sitting at the back of the classroom with Okoro and the other boys, leaving his best friend Obinna alone in front. Whenever the teachers called him out to return to his original seat, he would comply for a while, only to revert back to sitting with his new friends. Sometimes Okoro would even intimidate the teachers to let Obinna be. When hanging out with his new friends, Chima particularly enjoyed spending time with Chineye, the girl he met through the group. Obinna, worried about his friend, tried to encourage Chima to leave this crowd behind. Unfortunately, Okoro and the other made fun of Obinna for always carrying a Bible and preaching about values. Chima saw how much this hurt his longtime friend, but found it tough to stand up to the group. Instead of defending Obinna, he began to join in teasing. At home, Chima's parents became concerned when they noticed he rarely spent time with Obinna anymore. During one of his visits, Obinna mentioned the bad influence Chima was surrounded by. This worried Chima's parents, but they held on to the belief that the good values they had instilled in him will steer him right. They prayed for their son, hoping he would soon recognize the path he was walking down. Chima was drawn to the magnetic energy of his new friends, particularly Okoro, who encouraged him to step outside the boundaries imposed by his strict upbringing. Despite knowing his parents would disapprove, he found the allure of new social world irresistible. As they gathered at the corner shop, Chima was seated next to Chinenye, a girl who brought a thrill of freedom he had never experienced before. His parents noticed his growing detachment and dismay at his sleeping grades, yet they still held faith in the teaching that they had instilled in him. When they felt compelled to push him towards church attendance, he fabricated excuses to avoid going. Behind his parents' back, Chima began sneaking Chinenye into their home, reveling in his secret relationship. Chinenye tried to encourage Chima to stop joining Okoro's group since they have each other. They should stop going to the corner shop and concern themselves only with their friendship. Chinenye kept to her words and stopped going to the corner shop, but Chima continued. Over time, however, peer pressure began to change Chima. Okoro introduced him to other girls, insisting that Chinenye thought too highly of herself to remain part of the group. Despite feeling a sense of guilt, Chima began to embrace the new lifestyle of casual relationship. His evenings were filled with distractions from studying, and his parents did not notice. When mid-year results came out, Chima, the bright student, had failed all the subjects. His parents were shocked. "You always come home late saying you're studying in a group. What are you studying for?" his mother asked. But before they could question him further, there was a knock at the door. When his father opened it, he saw a pregnant girl and her parents asking to come in and talk about it. It was Chinenye and her parents coming to report her pregnancy. They explained that after months of asking their daughter who the father was, she finally said it's Chima. "My Chima?" Chima's mother exclaimed in disbelief. His father calmed her down and told her to let Chima speak, but Chima bluntly denied knowing Chinenye or being responsible for her pregnancy. "You hear him for yourself. Now, my son can never get a girl pregnant. We have taught him well," Chima's mother said. But Chima's father looked at him quietly. "Darling, say something now. They want to accuse our son falsely. Can't you see?" his mother urged. His father said, "The way you have been acting these past months, I can't defend you. Chima, tell us the truth. Do you know the girl?" his father asked angrily. "Father, you have always taught us not to fornicate. I only know this girl from school." Chima said humbly, "I suggest you look for the real father responsible for that pregnancy," Mrs. Okafor said, pointing at Chinenye's belly. Chinenye's parents tried to beg, explaining that their daughter's future was ruined since the school didn't allow pregnancies and she had to drop out. "We have hope our last born will at least finish school. She is our only child that made it this far. Please, Chima, my daughter says it's you," Chinenye's father pleaded. "It seems like all your daughters are just disgrace," Mrs. Okafor said coldly. "Even you, Mrs. Okafor, I thought at least as a mother who has daughters too, you would listen to us," Chinenye's mother said, pulling Chinenye out of the house. Chinenye couldn't believe Chima would deny her like that inside the house. Mr. Okafor continued questioning Chima. He warned him that if he was truly responsible for that girl's pregnancy, he should admit it now. But Chima insisted he didn't know Chinenye and only seen her walking with different boys after school. Mr. Okafor, still doubtful, asked around to see if anyone had seen Chima with the girl. The teachers at school said he was hanging out with Okoro and his friends were a bad influence, but they had never seen him with a girl. Even his former friend, Obinna said he had never seen Chima with a girl, they were all telling the truth, because Chima only spent time with Chinenye at night by the corner shop. This was a huge relief to Mr. Okafor, and he started feeling bad for reprimanding his son when he seemed innocent. "My friend, we heard that Chinenye came to your house to report the pregnancy," said Okoro. "You handled it well." Patting Chima at the back and pointing out to all his friends and telling him the number of times each girl had come to their house to report pregnancies, but they deny it. "Do you remember that girl who used to live next to the corner shop? What's her name again? Oh, she accused all of us of being the father of her child," Okoro added. His other friends chimed in, saying the girl ended up aborting and feeling so ashamed that her family moved away because she had several pregnancies with different men, including a married neighbor. "My friend, when you need a good woman to marry a church girl, not these girls who drink alcohol and hang out with us at the night," Okoro added, hyping Chima up while they waited for their girlfriends to come that night. When Chima got home, he found his father and elder brother waiting for him in the living room. Without warning, his brother gave him a hot slap. Bah! When Chima wanted to fight back, his brother gave him another slap. Bah! Saying, "Boy, is it the time to come home?" "Daddy, he smells of alcohol," his brother said, forcing him to sit. The shock seemed to sober Chima up. Quickly, he had never been slapped like that in his life. His brother told him that if he ever wanted to go to college, he should never hang out with his new group again. He was to come straight home after school and only leave the house to go to church or run errands. Chima nodded his head while he sobbed silently. When the school reopened, Chima didn't know how to tell his friends he wasn't allowed to hang out with them anymore. He went to sit with them as Obinna had already found new friends. After school, he would make excuses to rush home, saying his father sent him somewhere. Obinna tried to catch up with his studies, but it was hard. His group of friends didn't listen in class, write notes, or do any homework. Just when his father thought he was following his brother's instruction, another family came to report their daughter's pregnancy. His parents, knowing deep down that their son was likely responsible, chose to support him. They lied to protect their family's name, denying the allegations and dismissing the women as opportunists to ruin their reputation. As more accusations came, the Okafor household became more tense and filled with shame. Mr. and Mrs. Okafor were tired, their faces lined with worry. They knew they were covering up their son's behavior, but they feared public disgrace. Their once happy home was now filled with arguments and hushed conversations. Their life overshadowed by their son's actions. Chima never stopped hanging out with his friends at school, so when the final results came, although he passed, his marks were low for any university to accept him. His parents were disappointed and tired. They decided he would have to repeat the grade. They sent him to live with his strict brother in the city, hoping to keep him away from bad influence of his friends who had failed completely. Living with his brother and his family, Chima was grounded. In this strict environment, Chima focused on his studies and eventually thrived, earning spot at the local university. Years later, having graduated and started a job as an engineer, when he got a job, he moved out from his brother's house to live alone. Chima was free. He sought excitement in nightlife, indulging in one-night stand and casual relationships. One evening, while standing outside a club, Chima ran into Obinna, his childhood friend, who had become a pastor at a big church in the city. They exchanged numbers. After Obinna told Chima he saw him and drove back to say hello, Obinna insisted they meet again. Chima, seeing Obinna's persistence, agreed. The following Saturday, Obinna picked up Chima from his apartment to accompany him to church outreach. He told Chima they were going for an outreach and that he should come along. Chima said to Obinna, "You know I am not into church anymore. I was forced by my parents and brother, but now I'm free to do whatever I want." But Obinna insisted, promising to take him back if he didn't like it. The atmosphere in the church was charged with anticipation. Chima sat in his seat, feeling somewhat detached from the sermon that was about to begin, his mind wandering. After the pastor left the pulpit, a radiant figure framed by soft glow of the afternoon light, the beautiful young woman with cascading chestnut hair that shimmers like polished mahogany, walked confidently towards the pulpit. Each step seemed deliberate, exuding grace and warmth. She wore a long flowing white dress that accentuated her figure while giving her an extra quality, making her appear more otherworldly. As she approached the microphone, Chima felt a tug at his heart, a sensation that was both electrifying and soothing. Her features, a delicate jawbone, high cheekbone, and the sweetest blush of her cheeks, made her look strikingly beautiful. Yet, there was an understated charm that made her accessible, but it was her eyes, large and expressive, that truly captivated him. They glinted with passion and sincerity, drawing him in as if inviting him into her soul. The music swelled as the pianist began playing a soft, melodious introduction. The young woman took a deep breath, and Chima held his own, anticipation hanging in the air as she began to sing. Her voice soared, smooth and clear, like crystal water flowing in the sunlight stream. It was a powerful blend of strength and tenderness, effortlessly filling the sanctuary with notes that soared and danced like a choir of angels. Chima felt as if the world outside had faded, and all that existed was her voice weaving a spell around him. Each note was imbued by emotion, telling stories of joy, pain, and hope. The congregation swayed gently, caught up in the trisprit of the sound, but for Chima, it was as if she sang just for him. As she reached the chorus, her passion ignited, and Chima could see the way she poured her heart into every word. She closed her eyes, completely absorbed in the music, the expression on her face transforming into one of blissful surrender. Chima couldn't help but be entranced by the sheer beauty of her performance and the way she radiated confidence and joy. He found himself leaning forward, hanging on her every word, the worries of his own life momentarily forgotten. She shared not just a song but a piece of her heart. But in that moment, Chima felt an undeniable connection, not merely to her music, but to her spirit. It was as if she had glimpsed into the depths of soul and composed each note with the feelings in his mind. As the final note resonated through the congregation, the silence that followed was palpable, a collective breath held in awe. When the applause erupted, Chima joined, his hands clapping wildly as a grin spread across his face. In that instant, he knew he had witnessed something extraordinary, a combination of beauty, talent that left him utterly captivated. Chima felt a spark ignite within him, a longing to know her, to learn her stories, and perhaps even find a way to be a part of her world. As the echoes of her song lingered in the air, he found hope in the thought that this beautiful young woman might just be the beginning of a new chapter in his life. After service, Chima started asking Obinna about the lady who sang in church. Obinna told him he found her in an outreach and she had joined the church months ago and was a talented gospel singer, and her name was Chimamanda. Seeing Chima's interest, Obinna invited him to church the next day and gave him the directions. That Sunday, Chima arrived at church early. Obinna was surprised, but happy to see his friend keeping his promise, he ushered Chima to sit at the front with him, making it easy for Chima to see the stage. When Chimamanda sang, everyone was moved and people started praying fervently. After the service, Chima introduced himself to Chimamanda. When she mentioned she had to stay to clean and pack chairs, Chima offered to wait and give her a lift home. Chima started attending church every Sunday, falling deeper in love with Chimamanda. I have never loved a woman like this. I believe it's my first love. I want to marry her, Chima said after a few weeks of attending church. Chima and Chimamanda were now officially together, making the pastors and elders very happy, knowing a wedding was coming soon. Chima had stopped hanging out in clubs and spent his weekends in church doing work. His parents and brother were pleased to see how he had turned out to be the son they had always hoped for. When Chima sat with his colleagues that he used to hang out with, he would tell them that if they need a good woman, they need to go to church. Chima made it very clear, even to the ladies he had a one-night stand with, who thought it would turn out into something serious. He would tell them he will marry a church girl. Within months of knowing Chimamanda, he told Obinna he was ready to marry. But Obinna was not happy at all. He told him he had only known her for a short while and that he must take more time to know her. Chima said to Obinna, I don't think there is a more virtuous woman than Chimamanda in this church. When she sings, people fall. She is a true definition of a virtuous woman of God. What more can I learn about her? Obinna let it be, seeing how eager he was, and after months, Chima and Chimamanda had a very big white wedding at church. His parents asked that they must come to stay with them only for a week in the village to learn more about the Okafor family. After their honeymoon, Chima told Chimamanda that they are going to the village, but she said she is not going. But when Chima insisted, she agreed. All through their journey to the village, Chimamanda was sad. When Chima asked what the matter was, she said she is having a slight headache due to stress from the journey. After spending time with Mr. and Mrs. Okafor for a week, when Chima picked up Chimamanda from the village, he drove her to a big surprise, a huge house he had bought for her. Chimamanda was a teacher, her salary was small, and she also made money from singing at weddings and church events every now and then. But Chima, being an engineer and handling lots of construction work for rich businessmen in the city, was able to support his family without any lack. He loved his wife deeply and provided everything for her, including buying her a car so that she could attend church, take the children to school, and run errands without stress. He told his wife to quit teaching job, and she quitted and gave all attention to the family and the church. Chima's family grew and they had 3 children together. They were very happy and lacked nothing. Every evening they gathered to pray with each other, each child having a role, reading the Bible, praying or singing. Chimamanda loved spending time at church and sometimes come home very late. I'm sorry, my love. I had to prepare for next week's youth conference. Have you guys prayed yet? She would say, arriving home late almost every week. Chima provided the best for his wife and children. His children went to the best school and they raised them well. They had a beautiful life that many will consider a blessing. In their 10th year of marriage, Chimamanda became pregnant again. Her birth was premature and had many complications. Their unborn son was diagnosed with a genetic syndrome. Chimamanda was still weak and being treated. The doctor tested both parents to see which parents the baby inherited the disease from. When the doctor called Chima to explain the child's condition, he was already exhausted from waiting for many tests, having sleepless nights, and visiting the hospital. During one of his visits, Mr. Okafor, I'm sorry, but your DNA did not match, the doctor said, handing over the DNA results to Chima. What do you mean I don't match? I am his father. Don't you see me coming with my wife 2 days ago? Chima said, feeling confused and tired. He had only gone home to bed and sleep for a few hours and spent most of his time at the hospital. Chima asked the doctor to do the test again, but the test still showed that his DNA did not match. He couldn't believe it. He picked up his 7-year-old and 4-year-old from school and called the nanny to bring the 1-year-old. He took them to a doctor who was a friend and had paternity tests done. To his surprise, none of the children matched. Chima sat in the doctor's consultation room for a long time, saying nothing. The doctor gave him some space, but when he came back an hour later, Chima was still sitting there. Not even a single one is mine, Chima said quietly. Should I book you in for therapy? I have a friend who can see you now, the doctor offered, not sure if his words were even reaching Chima. Chima walked back to his car with his so-called children and the maid following him. He took them home. I watched them go inside the house while he stayed sitting in the car. Chima started thinking to himself, but how, he wondered, how a woman of such virtue, someone who prayed from midnight till dawn, could deceive him like this, a church woman, eh? He exclaimed, rubbing his face, eager to inform his parents about his ordeal. He drove back to the village. The gravel road was full of bumps and holes from the rain. Chima stopped when he saw an old man fixing the road. He wanted to thank the old man with some cash, but as he looked down in the car to find some change, the old man approached his window, rubbing his hands together. Thank you, sir. Anything to buy food, the old man said humbly. Oh, my friend, it is you. The old man fixing the road was Okoro. Okoro was so happy to see Chima, who didn't recognize him at all. Okoro had become a local drunk. His skin turned gray and he had no job. Okoro had to introduce himself, seeing that Chima didn't recognize him. When Chima realized who Okoro was, he momentarily forgot his problems and felt lucky to have had a strict brother who put him back on the right track. My friend Okoro, stop what you are doing and come inside the car, Chima said. Okoro rushed to put his tools by the side of the road and got into the car. Chima took him to the local shops to buy clothes and food. Okoro couldn't stop praising Chima, admiring his car, his clothes, and how well he has done for himself. While Chima was taking out some cash to pay at the local store, something fell from his wallet. Okoro picked it up. What? I know this lady. What's that her name? Oh, how did I forget her name? She's still as beautiful as ever. Chima quickly took the picture from Okoro's hand. How do you know her? Come, Chima said, pulling Okoro back to the car. Talk now. How do you know her? He asked, his eyes fixed on Okoro. Okoro said, you remember when I said there was a lady who accused all of us of getting her pregnant? This is the lady we are talking about. Okoro started to narrate the whole story of how she had been with him and all his friends. He even showed Chima where she used to live near the corner shop. Chai, this woman, when you see her, you will repent. She eats, breathes, and dreams church songs. I can't believe a woman like her can do this. Chima said angrily, they do like this now. When they are tired of the worldly life, they go to church, Okoro said, following Chima's anger. By the time Chima reached his parents' house, he had made up his mind. He explained everything to his parents, tears running down his cheeks. None of those children are mine. I have wasted almost 10 years supporting and having sleepless nights over another man's children. None of these children are my mother, Chima said, sitting next to his mother who tried to comfort him. Mr. Okafor said, laughing to him, our sins has finally caught up with us. He stood up and left. When Chima returned to the city with his parents, they called his elder brothers and sisters to discuss the matter. When Chimamanda was discharged from the hospital, she found that everyone was ready and waiting for her. I don't even see why we are holding a meeting with this useless woman. Can somebody throw her out already? Chima's elder sister said, but their father suggested it was better for Chima to just raise the children as his own. Everyone in the room jumped up in protest. No, she must tell us who the father is or fathers so that she can go and stay with them. Another sibling said. Chima told his father he could never raise anyone else's child and that Chimamanda had wasted his time. He could have found a good woman and had his children by now. His father added, you do have children and someone else is also raising your children. Have you forgotten so quickly? The room fell silent. Chima stood up and told everyone the meeting was over. He rushed to his wife and started shaking her, demanding the truth. Who is the father of your children? Tell me, is it Pastor James? It is him, Chimamanda admitted. He asked her to pack her things and leave, either to Mr. James, who had his wife, or wherever she saw fit. He also told her she would not get anything from him, and that he would hire the best lawyer to ensure she didn't get a dime. Chimamanda had no money to fight him in court, so she saw no point in trying. When the news reached the congregation that Pastor James had children with Chimamanda, there were lots of gossips. Some criticized Chimamanda, some criticized Pastor James. Most of the congregation, including Chima, stopped going to church. Chima, along with his parents, visited all the families they had rejected their pregnancies to beg for mercy and forgiveness. When they returned home, Chima's parents were in tears. I have never been so humiliated in my whole life. I am not coming with you tomorrow, Chima's mother said, after visiting and searching for the families they once disgraced. When they went looking for Chinenye, she was already married and her husband had adopted the child, giving him his own name, and the son was now 15 years old. The son told Chima that his real father was his stepdad. 2 other women they couldn't find, and some had moved on. Others refused to do paternity tests, telling him if he didn't want to be in the child's life, he could go back where he came from. The only child he could mend things with, they refused to give him the child and asked him to pay child support. Moral lesson. Chima's story is a powerful reminder. Every choice we make shapes our future. The influence of friends can lead us astray, but with perseverance, we can find our way back. Redemption is possible, but it requires confronting the truth, taking accountability for our actions, and learning from our past mistakes. Join the conversation. What lessons have you learned from your own journey? Remember, we are not defined by our failures, but how we choose to rise from them. Subscribe for more inspiring stories and life lessons. Thank you for watching.